Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world watching us. Welcome to the latest of Staying Sane with Jay and Hussein. I'm Jay, and as usual, my partner in crime, Hussein, who's going to start us off this week with a story on what's going on in Congo.
Yes, that's a horrific news that is coming up from Congo. That's a middle African country, which is a Christian dominated country. But the news is that 70, by now it's almost 90, who got killed, not just got killed, but they were literally beheaded by the Islamic forces over there. That they are called as the ADF, that is Allied Democratic Force. That's the name of that organization, which is associated with or affiliated to the ISIS. So they were targeting these Christians. They were chased into a church, and they were taken as captives over there, and they were brutally killed. And that's a news which is coming out there which we have not heard of, and that's one big reason why now this is the news. Like, why the world is silent over this? This is the main question. Even the human rights organizations and people looking at the atrocities which is happening against the Christian minorities in the African region, mostly by the ISIS affiliated or ISIS like organizations like the JNIM. Then many other people are there, like the Al Shabaab, then Boko Haram, and many are there. So this is one another organization which is headed by a person called Afande Musa Baluku. He's the Amir of ADF. That's his name, and they are targeting these people since long time, probably after 2019 or so. So their chief aim is to conquer the Democratic Republic of Congo and convert that into an Islamic country. So that's their primary aim, and that's the goal towards which they have to um, uh, take the kafirs or the kuffar or the non-believers and to convert them or to kill them or to subdue them by paying the Islamic tax called as the jizya. And this is the narrative which is being explained regarding why these people are doing all this. So this is a news which is coming out from Congo, and there are similar news from many other parts of the world, from Afghanistan, from Syria, and many other places. But we usually say that the world is mostly focused on the Middle East, especially to um, the Israel-Palestine conflict. So even then, last day we saw a news which was something so much horrific, so much saddening, that is the hostages getting killed in their captivity. And while transferring their dead bodies, they are getting mixed up with some other unknown civilian from the Gazan region, that is the Bibas family. That's what I'm talking about. So, two young children from Israel and their mother, Kafir and Ariel, and their mother, Shiri Bibas, they were killed. And their bodies were transferred or handed over to the Israeli authorities. And while handing them over, they were parading their dead bodies using large music, large volume music, and huge crowd, and they are clapping and cheering and all such nonsense which is happening over there. And now there's a worldwide uproar against what they have done, what they have displayed as a celebration of the death of civilians. So um, I just mentioned about this at this point while mentioning about the death that happened in Congo, is that in both the cases, we are speaking of the civilians getting affected. They are getting killed for no reasons. And at the same time, the uproar against them, these kind of atrocities and their activities like this, it's not uniform. It's not given uh, in a balanced way. So this is something which exposes the hypocrisy while addressing some of the issues which is happening in our world. And for that, the simple reason is why they are raising their voices against some instances, while at the same time, for the similar atrocities, which is the attack against humanity, civilians getting attacked, they are remaining silent or not even able to understand this. And it's not just about the difference in the location, the geopolitical location. Even in the same war, when on one side the civilian is getting attacked, there's a huge uproar, and at the same time on the other side of the same issue, that is when the Israeli civilians are getting brutally murdered, with specific focus or specific intention of killing the civilians, then it is not getting that kind of an attention and a condemnation from the population around the world, who were so keen in raising their voices when same sort of issues were happening on the other side. So this is a hypocrisy. That's what I was just trying to make it as a point. So I would like to get your point to, or your viewpoints to, on this. Yeah.
Well, you see this all the time. Like some of the most famous examples, like the Charlie Hebdo massacre. It was about 10 years ago now. And whenever there's some sort of tragedy that makes the mainstream media, people put up the what's the word on Facebook? They put like a frame on their photo, like of the flag or whatever where the country happened, and yet simultaneously you have another tragedy in another country, and you see people. I mean, I've done it myself. Calling out people saying, "Hey, where's your flag for the people who've been murdered in this little out of the way remote place that you don't care about. You only care about places like France or something like that. Um, not to say I'm believing in this, but it's it's indicative of the attitude that there's a famous, not famous, but it's an Onion article that I've never forgotten. It's always stuck with me because of the headline and basically how it applies mainly to Americans, not so much to other Westerners, but primarily to Americans that 15,000 brown people dead somewhere you've never heard of, which kind of captures that sentiment that while there are you know humanitarian disasters routinely going on around the world, a lot of people in the West, particularly, really tend to focus on only the ones that you know are being captured by the mainstream media. And is that the mainstream media's fault that they're not covering issues like if there's like in Congo, like I didn't hear about the story in Congo. It never came up on my news feed. So yeah, I would say there's definitely some fault of the media that they tend to prioritize certain countries, certain civilizations over others. A human tragedy is a human tragedy. It shouldn't matter where it occurs. So, we should know about it. We should all be saddened by it. So,
Yeah. So when we mention about this mainstream media and their inherent biases, recently we saw a kind of a documentary, kind of a news item which was published by or aired by the BBC, which they have now taken out or off from the domains, from their archives, because that invite a lot of criticism from around the world, just for focusing on the issue in the Middle East, for the life of the civilians who is affected by this war. But they chose the wrong person to shoot the film, that is the photographer. He was himself a supporter of the Hamas on one side, and
oh,
at the
this is
same time,
the BBC documentary that the narrator
yeah,
was the son. Okay, I
yeah,
can speak to
the
that.
son.
I've actually, so I saw an interesting breakdown of that yesterday.
Mhm.
The so there are two wings. You have the armed wing of Hamas and you have the political wing of Hamas. And it's the political. He was the son of I think, the information minister of the political wing, not of
Oh,
the armed wing. So yes, while BBC should have disclosed the connection, it is disingenuous for people to be saying, "Hey, this is the kid of a Hamas militant," because he's not in the militant. He's in the political wing of Hamas. He's an information minister, and as we know, most there's like Israel has kept all the foreign journalists out of Gaza. So if it wasn't for this political wing and the information ministry, we'd have virtually no information coming out of Gaza. So it's disingenuous of people to be trying to claim that this documentary, I believe it's How to Survive in a War Zone. I went looking for it, and I couldn't find it, but I did find other commentaries talking about this, including the one that I watched. noting that this kid, his father is in the political faction, not in the armed faction. So, we need
Yeah,
to be careful about this kind of stuff.
I would like to add 2 points at this point. That is, if it was this reason, why BBC, a great broadcasting corporation like BBC, was not able to defend itself by raising the same argument that you are raising. They were not able to do that because when you talk about a broadcasting company like, or a corporation like BBC, and when they are talking on an organization like Hamas, it doesn't matter whether it's belonging to the military wing or belonging to the political wing, because after all, it's all about Hamas, which is a designated terrorist group
Yeah.
for themselves.
The militant wing is proscribed,
Hamas,
not the
no,
political wing.
no. At the same time, even the minister or the many people from, even from UAE, they have asked the Hamas themselves to step down from the power. So when someone asks an organization to step down, it's not about just military or just politics. It's all about their organization, because they are not worthy to represent that people, because they have endangered. And even now we have another news which came out maybe hours before we do this. That is, that's another person who is into the non-militia or the non-militant group. He's a public, some kind of information ministry or something like that. He's a person in that wing, and now he has said, if he knew the consequences would be like this after October 7th, he wouldn't have backed an October 7th. That's what he said.
So, so
So
that
just
leads to the
imagine.
next question: what the hell did he think was going to happen? That
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
I would deduce he's being rather disingenuous. I'm sure they knew damn well what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So
So
I,
and
I,
and
I
coming to,
don't, I don't buy that at all.
yeah, nobody buys that, but
Yeah.
the just imagine what they are coming up with now, like some lame excuses, and at the same time they are not saying that we it shouldn't have happened. No, that's not what they are saying. If the consequences, they are only lamenting over the consequences. They are not lamenting on what happened on October 7th. That's the difference. So that's one point. And regarding the earlier one, the remaining aspect is that there's one key aspect which was missing, or which was overlooked in this documentary that's by the BBC. That is, they went for a fictional kind of creation of this documentary. They shouldn't have recreated the scenario. They went for that way. They selected an actor, a kid who was acting whatever things that is going on in Gaza during a war. Actually, what was told to shoot was to focus on the reality, but they chose for recreating the things, which itself is a violation. So this is another reason why they had to take it down. It's not just about the son of the militia or son of the political wing or anything like that. It's all about their core principle was violated. The main way of doing things, that was violated. So that's also one reason.
Well,
So I was,
there's a deeper aspect at play here. So Saturday, I went to a private screening. There's a documentary done in Britain called "Censoring Palestine," and it's made by uh, British journalists and other people who are advocating for Palestinian human rights, and how they're being shut down in Britain by the Israeli lobby, the pro-Israeli lobby, who have basically hijacked the British establishment. They talk about how they weaponized anti-Semitism to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. Um, excuse me, and how they've arrested journalists just for advocating, that Palestine deserves to be treated with human rights. Professors who've been sacked unjustly. A professor who was denied a speaking engagement. Um, so there's a little bit more at play going on here in the UK than just BBC's norms. The BBC is also, up against this pro-Israeli establishment that has pretty much taken over the UK and tried to shut down any legitimate criticism. So there's
yeah,
more to the story than that.
could be, but anyway, they have lost, or they are losing their credibility as a genuine reporting media. when they are backing all these kind of terrorist organizations or trying to normalize whatever things that they are saying and playing a part of their propaganda. That's what is happening altogether. So that's one big issue which we will have to, or they will have to look into, and which will erode their credibility factor. So at the same
Yeah.
time, this is something which is not a unique aspect which we saw, just like what this documentary was. Even before that, there was a book by Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, who was the mastermind of this October 7th attack. And the name of that book was The Thorn and the Carnation. I have read that book in our local language, and the name was Mulchadiyum Karayambu. That's the Malayalam version of that. So if you go through that book, the book has a picture of Yahya Sinwar on its cover, and it just looks like a biography, autobiography. That's how the book looks like. But if you go through the book, it's a it's a clever blending of reality with fiction. And if you go through that, you can find that if a person who understand or who knew a little bit of the history of this region, you will get to know that it's just 20% of reality and 80% fiction. And such a book, which is looking like a autobiography, which is itself is a novel, nobody will understand it as a novel, because if you go through that, it's just like you're narrating something from your personal experience and doing all these things, and people will be misled. It's a way of doing this propaganda, and they are doing this in a clever manner where they are literally fooling the people, the whole of the world. So this book is something which is even available even now, and we should be careful when reading that. And I'm pretty sure that if any Muslim read this book, he can be easily skewed in a way that he can be easily made into a person who supports the Hamas and do whatever things that they wish us to do. So that's how that book is crafted. So the blend of fiction and reality with little bit of reality. And if you just pick those reality, it clearly proves how weak their points are, like how they are trying to depend upon the fiction to make sure that their story won't fail. Without the fiction, if it was just the reality that he is trying to portray in that book, the whole book will fail. That's how it is.
No, that's
So if you get
politics. I
a,
mean, look at
yeah,
Trump and Musk. Every word out of their mouth is fiction. So I mean, it's a standard tool in the playbook of
see,
most politicians. So
okay, so wouldn't it be even more nicer if we could correlate this with someone like Hitler or some people like them who is literally using this propaganda machinery to fool people and to judge their actions, to justify their actions, and to make sure that people believe their propaganda and to stand by them and to send them money and use that money to buy more weapons and to build those, all these things. So we should have a point in comparison. So when you compare this with what Trump is doing, Trump is not building any underground tunnels and using that facility to bomb
no,
other
but
people or to,
he's undermining Ukraine. He said Ukraine started the fucking war.
yeah, that's a
Like
that's a
they're now
serious
the
issue.
U.S. is
I
now in
agree.
line with North Korea and Russia, and as they did, I think it was one of the night American evening shows
Mm,
said they took the clip of George Bush describing North Korea and Russia, and the U.S. is now as the axis of evil. So
mm.
Trump is totally undermining world order. How many
In
people are going
that
to die
issue,
under
Trump
this
is
fool?
totally bonkers. I would agree that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this issue, so that's another thing. If one person is saying something in another issue, and if he's saying some same thing in another one, that doesn't mean that he's totally wrong. We can take the right thing, we can disregard the
Does
wrong thing. So
does
that should
Trump
be the
ever say
approach.
anything
That's
right? I don't think truth
I'm
is
not
ever
just
uttered
saying
of the
that
truth.
it's all about Trump. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
There
No,
are
no,
a
no, I'm
lot of
just saying. I don't
things
think.
which we can.
I think everything he
Yeah.
says is a lie. So, well,
Oh, okay.
we were chatting before the show
Hmm.
about the Arab countries are now calling on Hamas to step down. That we said we want to talk about. So I think that
Yeah.
you were talking about Hamas is they've put out this biography. They're trying to prop themselves up,
Hmm.
but they're losing a lot of steam with their Arab allies around them. Um,
Yeah.
so what do you think is do you think they're going to pressure Hamas into stepping down?
I think we had this discussion when we mentioned about the Gaza Riviera plan by Trump. Do you remember that this
Hmm.
will be the occasion where the Arabs will be in a corner, trying to make some plans, serious plans to solve this out, because the Arabs had a bigger role in shaping this whole issue from the beginning. So now they are in a position that they should do something in material to solve this. And this is the right time, or this is the exact time that I was waiting for, or maybe the world is was waiting for. So I think for this Middle Eastern region where Israel and Palestinian issue, the Arab cause, and other things were in play for last couple of decades, uh, twice we are seeing this rise of extremism and fall of extremism and the change of mindset. The first instance was when it happened with Yasser Arafat, when he started off with the Intifada and other things, and he was so violent at the beginning, and finally he was transformed into a person due to various reasons, and he was like the messenger of the peace at last. And now even in our place we had a strike on the day he was who when he died. On that day we had a strike. It was a kind of a national holiday for us, or a state holiday for us. So this was the kind of person he was transformed. And for a generation of people, it's only this face of Yasser Arafat which is well known. The violent face of Yasser Arafat is not known. And this transformation of Yasser Arafat from the violent form to the peaceful form was one reason why Hamas was originated. Like they were like, uh, Yasser Arafat has changed. He has now gone back to, or he has backtracked the original Arab cause, that is non-existence of Jews. There shouldn't be any Jewish state in this Middle East. So now he has backtracked in that. So now we should reconstitute a new body which should uphold the original Arab cause, and that is again the first one. So they started off with the Intifada too. So now we saw if many other leaders like Yahya Sinwar and Haniya and many other people, and they were all saying like October 7th happened. It was the Al-Aqsa flood, and this is over. We won, and we will keep repeating this until Israel is eliminated, and after that we will come to your country. That's how they were explaining things. So it's not just about the Middle East or the geopolitics. That's what we always say. It's all about anti-Semitism, or the hate against the Jews. That's one thing which is well evident from the beginning. So now the world has seen twice this happening. And for the Arabs, this is something which they have already realized, and they were already in a process of eliminating this anti-Semitism from their culture, and they have done a lot of things in keeping away this anti-Semitism from their growing generation, from their kids, starting from their textbooks and in many other educational institutions. So now, for the Arab world, except this Palestinian region, they will be doing something some more solid, in a way that this will help to alleviate the issues over there and to bring down the anti-Semitism among the people and to bring a peaceful solution or a settlement plan to both the regions. So it shouldn't be always the two-state solution, because there was no such a solution for the Hamas from the beginning, and even for Yasser Arafat's party in the beginning, it was not the solution. There's a well-known three no's resolution that was passed by the Arab nations, three no's of the Khartoum resolution. There's no peace, no Jews, and no negotiations. That was the resolution that they were putting forward. So three no's it was. So just like that, now they have come to a situation where they must look for, they must side with some peaceful solutions. Without that, the Middle East won't exist, especially when most of the Middle Eastern countries rely upon Israeli technology and their support and many other things, and even American military base and other things. So it's their mutual benefit now, which is playing a greater role in this Middle East. So things are different now. So I am pretty sure that this time the Arabs will come up with a plan, or at least they will be part of the bigger plan, where the conflicts which is now rampant and which is recurring over and over for the centuries will come to a settling part where we will see a lasting peace. That's what I believe. Yeah.
Well, don't you're missing one big piece of the puzzle, and that is in the last year and a few months, because of Israel's uh, intensity of the destruction, have created a whole new generation of young men who are displaced and, quite frankly, fucking angry. So if Hamas leaves, you're still going to have this kernel of resentment in the Palestinian population. Now, granted, if the Arab countries step in, if the U.S. comes in and helps to rebuild and provide the infrastructure, you're going to attenuate a lot of that hatred, or at least
But
some of it.
but
But
there's a change.
you're still going to have some there, and that we're going to have to confront that.
But there's a
Those
change.
hardcore ones. But yeah, we need the world community, including the surrounding Arab countries, to really step up
Mm.
um, and help.
But there's a change. As you said, that's right. There will be resentment, and there will be newer wave of extremism that is being sown in the among the people, and they might grow up even stronger than what Hamas was. That's always a possibility. I'm not denying that, but at the same time, you must see the change, because in the past there were always the Arab countries and the Middle East and the US and other countries who were always supporting them with the financials, with the unending supply of aid money, which was always a boon for them. But this time, this is the area where they are finding it a difficult game now on, because that vein of unending supply of money, that is now stopped. So stopped in a way that it's in a huge way it is cut now. And even in the West Bank region, last time we spoke about a an agreement that was about to be signed with Trump administration regarding ending the pay for slay, the kind of stipend for committing terror and killing people and all such things. So now it's gaining a little bit of momentum, where the exact purpose of that kind of a stipend is now a big debate, and now that is getting exposed. The pay for slay scheme is getting a backlash, and and I'm sure that that will be even seeing an end of supply very soon, and that will lead to without money, nothing, no terror will work. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what we are seeing even in our country, in India, where the government is focusing on cutting the veins of supply of this money, which they procure from around the world, from black money, white money, everywhere, even cryptocurrency. So that's one reason why even India is now holding back on the cryptocurrencies. So it's not easy. So yeah, this is the biggest change that is we are failing to see in this moment. Yeah.
And we've seen reports that, how Hamas has skimmed off tens of millions of dollars from not only aid money, but the money coming from Iran and other states that are sponsoring terrorism. So if their supply line is cut off, you would think, if these men, if they are pragmatic, and if they are as divorced from ideology as I think they are, that they've basically become a kleptocracy. That these guys will just take what money they have left and they'll run. They'll go to some jurisdiction where they can retire and live off their ill-gotten gains. Because the taps have been turned off now, as you said. So if they're smart, they should take the money they've stolen and go somewhere and just get out of the way. So
But do you think that's easy?
if they're smart, take the money and go. I don't
How
know, go to
smart?
Saudi or wherever. So well,
Oh,
they're
with
smart.
those
They're
with
smart.
that money, if they go
Like
to Saudi, that will be the end of the game for them.
yeah,
Because right now, the best country to um, for a peaceful existence in an Islamic country, if you have to find that, that will be in Saudi or in UAE, because they are the best countries which is implementing or enforcing the principles of controlling Islamic terrorism. They are the
yeah.
ones who are literally doing that by controlling extremist elements. No mercy for them. That's what they're doing. And that's something which the rest of the world must copy and just do that. There's no other way. You can't even copy the way that China is doing because that is a kind of a genocide that they are committing. That's not the way. But with UAE and Saudi, what they are doing is they are eliminating all the extremist elements in the in their place, and they are leaving no stones unturned to
Yeah.
ensure that any element of extremism or any chance of propagation of extremist ideas will be controlled, will be eliminated. That's that they are doing either by killing them, either by hiding them, and whatever ways that they can do. That's the way they're doing it, and it's effective. And that's one reason why we don't see much atrocities of this terror activities in these regions. It's very difficult in that regions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, we have to wait and see, how
Yep.
things are going to shape, how they're going to play out. Like if the
It's all
Hamas
about
leadership,
business.
if they've lost all their support or their funding, you know,
Mm.
if they were smart, they'd take their money and run. But what jurisdiction can they go to? Like what jurisdiction is not going to prosecute them and give them safe haven? It's probably going to be some
Right
third
now,
world,
India is a safe
desolate
haven
place.
for them.
Really?
Yeah, because
So
India has
India
not
would take them?
designated no, no, India has not designated Hamas as terrorists. So maybe even now that's the case here, and that's one reason why we see a lot of supporters for this Hamas, and they are not still prosecuted in a way that to avoid further propagation of their idea, and that's one problem that we are facing, that they are getting even more exposure. Their ideas are getting even more reach than in Gaza. I would
Do you,
say Hamas has more supporters in India than in Gaza. That's the
but do you
situation
think
here.
do you think Modi would allow them to come to
No,
India, or he would see how what a
in
nightmare that would be?
in fact, Hamas leaders were present in the POK region, that is Pak occupied Kashmir, last month or so. And they were in talks with other terrorist organizations like um, uh, the ones which is most popular here. And they were holding a meeting, and they were like, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Palestine will be free. That's their new slogan now. So you can imagine it's what the exactly what Ismail Haniya and other Hamas leaders were saying. First Israel, second your country, and you can decide which is that your country. It could be America, it could be India, it could be even Thailand, it could be even any
Well,
European
from
country.
it's been a while since I've studied Kashmir, but from what I remember, and you feel free to correct me, that Pakistan wants to control Kashmir, India wants to control Kashmir, but Kashmir doesn't want to be. They want to be independent. They don't want either country. Is that correct? That they want to be their
Uh,
own their
in the
own
beginning, it's a
self-autonomous?
yeah, it's a very complex issue. But right now, it's solved to a great extent, or I would say completely. But except for the problem of terrorism and the infiltration that we are facing, there's no doubt that Kashmir is and was a part of India. So it was from the beginning. Kashmir was a part of India, and Indians were accepting that. And Kashmir is, uh, for a large part of their population, in the beginning there was an issue between the ruler there, and so they chose to remain separate from the Indian continent. They were having a separate, uh, a kind of a separate Article 370. That was the article in the constitution which gave them a separate entity, kind of an existence.
Like
So
an
that was giving them a,
autonomous region.
yeah, so they had separate flag, and they had separate citizenship kind of rules and other things. So now this Article 370 is now abolished, and Kashmir is a part of India from 2021 or so. So there's no doubt in that. But still, even after abrogation of this 370, Pakistan still think that this is their part and they have to win it back. So that's
Well,
one
what do the
reason why
Kashmiris want? Do the Kashmiris want to be autonomous, or do they want to
Kashmiris,
be
they have
aligned?
already accepted the change, and they are now holding the Indian flag, and they have done a lot of things. They have praised Modi ji, and they have done a lot of things in that line, despite that region is majority Muslim region. So that's a big change that happened afterwards. But at the same time, this POK region, that's a region which is which we designate as Pak occupied Kashmir. So the part of India that is Kashmir, which is occupied by Pakistan, and that's a warring region. So now India is now getting ready, or they are planning something bigger to take that back. Anytime that can happen.
You know, what do the people in that region want? Do those people
They
want to
want
be
to be in
aligned with
India.
Pakistan?
It's
They want
not
to be in
just
India.
it's not just Polk that want to be in India. Even some of the regions in Pakistan adjacent to this, they are also willing to join India. That's the situation there, because they are. That's one region which is unattended by the Pakistani administration, and they are facing famines, and they are facing a lot of economic issues and other things. So what they are looking, everyone, what they are looking is better living standards and economic status and other things. So what they are asking for is just leave us, let us go with India. That's what they're saying. So the Gilgit region, that's one region which is adjacent to that. So now they are asking for joining with India and all. So uh, it's not easy that they can join, but still, that is the kind of slogan that they are raising now.
And so you're saying Hamas is in this POK region stirring up trouble.
Yeah, because they are just adding oil into the fire. They are
But
just
the
giving their
but
techniques of October 7th, maybe could be.
so I would assume it's a minority in that region who want to stay aligned with Pakistan. If most of the people want to go to India, there's
Absolutely, yeah.
a small minority who are, and they're stirring up trouble and
Who,
aligning. So
yeah,
so
who
what why
are,
does so
yeah.
what I said it's been a while since I've studied Kashmir. So why does Pakistan even want this region? Is it for mineral rights, or it's just they don't want to lose face by giving up something they've laid claim to, or it's there's more to it than that?
Gaswai Hind. That's the reason.
What does that mean?
Just like there's no Jewish state anti-Semitism for the Israel-Palestine region, India, Pakistan, we have another Islamic tenet which is called Ghazwa Hind, the conquest of India. That's the meaning of that. So it's a teaching in Islam which is there, which dreams about conquest of India, where India will be an Islamic, a part of an Islamic country. So they are
Yeah,
dreaming
okay.
that.
Yeah, dreaming is the right word. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there's more Muslims in India than there is in Pakistan, so which I always thought was kind of an odd demographic of the partition that,
Mm.
you had all these people who migrated to Pakistan, and yet the vast majority of Muslims didn't go to Pakistan. So I mean,
Uh,
that's indicative, I think.
no, we cannot just sum up it that way, because the partition happened because it was represented by the Muslim League in that day, and their reason for asking for this partition was that 85 to 90% of Muslims voted for them. That's what their claim was. But when the real partition happened, uh, many Muslims remained, stayed back. That's what happened. But the claim for the partition was made by the position that Muslims backed them. So they got majority vote in that. So that's how it happened. And for settling the issue for that region, the politicians living in those days, they just chose to go with that, because if that alleviates the problem, let it be. That's how they decided.
So
Yeah.
what do you think? If we've been talking about like the Muslim Enlightenment, and to some extent maybe a Hindu Enlightenment, as we're seeing like the young generation is increasingly secular, and they are none.
Mm.
Do you think maybe in 100 years, if both India and Pakistan become heavily secular, that there might be a possibility of an undoing of partition?
Undoing of partition is something which is another dream among some of the secularists and some of the idealists in India. So there are some people like the former Chief Justice Kadju and other people. They have an organization which is working for that, or they are spreading this message among both the people in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, and even in India, to undo this partition. But I don't think it's easy, because this issue of ideology is always there. That's one issue. And to undo that, even for that, you have to dig deeper, even into the textbooks, because even in the textbooks, things are taught in a way that India or Hindus are filth. They are the kafir. They are untouchables and other things. So it's always there.
Well, you have
So
that in Hinduism too. The untouchables comes from Hinduism, not from the Muslims, like the Dalits, right?
sorry, no. The untouchableness of India, the Hindu culture is something different from what
Okay.
you see in Islam. In Islam, everyone except is Muslim is are untouchable. So that's how they are doing it. And but for the caste-based discrimination, which is now a crime, and if you practice untouchableness in India, you will be in jail. But for the Muslims, even in India, they can practice this untouchability without getting noticed. So that's the difference in the untouchableness that you can see here, because the untouchability, it's not just about being untouchable, it's about a mindset where they always see these people are inferior and they must be killed, and this kind of attitude, it's always there, and
Yeah.
it's most prominent. You might have seen a lot of interviews and other TV channel programs in Pakistan where they will be asking small kids, what do you think about the Indians? The first statement that they are, even small kids are saying is like, they are mostly Hindus and we should convert them or we should kill them. This is the kind of things that they are speaking of. So this is something which we require a revamp, like what we saw in the textbook modernization and textbook editing, which happened in the Middle East as part of this Abraham Accords. So
So we might
anti-Semitic,
not see we might not see partition reverse, but maybe a de-escalation of the tensions between India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, and a much more community of nations and coming together
it's not
if they
easy.
can set aside like this religious ideology. Well, like I said, like I'm saying, like in 100 years from now, right? Because we're seeing the increasing numbers of ex-Muslims, like the demographic is growing by leaps and bounds. That I would speculate within a century, a lot of these Muslim republics are going to be gone. So
See this.
unless they're holding on by guns and repression, I think the
mm,
people, by and large, the people are walking away.
See, this xenophobia among Muslims is nothing like a personal thing. It's something which is ideological. So, unless and until you have a great correction or something that a force that can stop it, even by a legal reformation or something like that, by making it into something illegal, then only we can see some sort of a difference in that. So that's the difference of what we see in the Middle East, where we speak about the changes that are seen in Saudi Arabia or in UAE, where people are even more coexistent over there. So for such a thing to happen in Pakistan and in Bangladesh region, it's very difficult right now because the governments over there, especially in Pakistan and Bangladesh, even now what we saw there in Bangladesh after the ousting of Hasina administration, we were seeing rampant killings and atrocities against the minorities over. It's not just about Hindus; it's all about everything
The
about the
other,
Hindus, Christians, and many other minorities, including the
the
Buddhists and other.
other,
Even
you're
yeah,
not me.
yeah, even the factions in Islam which they consider as kafir, like the Ahmadiyas and other things. So the same thing is happening in Pakistan. So it's very difficult to change this ideological mindset, which is heavily ingrained among the population, even from their young age. So for correcting that, that requires time. Maybe, as you said, 100 years. Maybe, let's see. So if that can be corrected by using the power of this social media, by even more um, engaging posts and other things, and a lot of information which is now being fed into them through the social media, maybe that will bring more speedy solutions to this. Yeah, let's hope for that.
Yeah. We won't be here in 100 years though to see it.
Yeah,
So unless our
but
consciousness
we
has been uploaded into the cloud.
but we have the duty or the responsibility of making things happen now, so
Yeah.
that people of that time will they won't be able to, or they need not say another 100 years. So let's make it easy for them.
Yeah. We have a duty to make the world better than we found it. Like there's
Yeah,
what's that
right.
saying about, I planted a tree, but it doesn't give me shade, but it will give shade to my grandchildren, sort
Others,
of
yeah.
thing. So
Yeah. Isn't that a good idea?
yeah, it's a great idea. Well, that's like, you know, my ex years ago is like, "Why do I care so much about these issues?" I'm like, "Because somebody has to care. If
Mm,
nobody cares, nothing will change. Somebody has to be passionate about these things, and
absolutely.
has to fight for rights and clean water and lack of pollution. Like, just
So
somebody
this
needs to give a
is, yeah. So this is how we help people stay sane, right? With Jay and
yeah,
Hussein.
'cause we're going insane. Yeah, it is troubling. I actually so those of you who maybe watch regularly know that I've written a book. I actually state in the introductions, there were a couple of times I was researching something so horrific, I literally just had to close my laptop and walk away. It was just, the barbarity of man against man. Like, it's shocking how humans can treat each other. And that there are just certain times, like even the history of it is so upsetting. And to see it perpetuated in our own modern age to some degree in some of these cultures is
Yeah.
it's
You have
embarrassing.
a,
So,
yeah, you have a question here from Hari Krishnan.
okay.
Can you read that? Why is
So
this a
I
global phenomenon? I mean, the silence when a problem arises due to Islam in society. Do you
I
find
don't
do you
I don't
find
think there is
a
I mean, you
silence?
see no, because you see people like Sam Harris, and others are very vocal,
Mm.
about the threat that Islam provides.
And for the same reason, they
You
are
know
badged as the right wing and Islamophobes. Sam
Yeah, well,
Harris.
that's exactly the same technique of calling people who criticize Israel's tactics is, "Oh, that's anti-Semitism. Oh, you're criticizing Israel. Oh, you're Islamophobic." No, let's learn what words mean. If we're criticizing the negative aspects of Islam, that doesn't mean we hate Muslims. And if we're criticizing Israel, that doesn't mean we hate Jews. There's a world of difference. Words have meaning for a reason. This is just rhetoric. Like I said, there's this book about I actually downloaded it today. It's called Weaponizing Anti-Semitism, and it was done by a British journalist about how the pro-Israeli lobby in England
Mm,
weaponized anti-Semitism to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. So it's the same tactic we see from Israel that the Islamists are using to just scream Islamophobia. It's a bullshit word that doesn't mean anything. It's just used to try to bully people into silence. And anybody with a brain in their head knows that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are increasingly calling out Islam, but to some extent, a lot of people who would speak up are maybe afraid to because they're afraid, like what happened with Charlie Hebdo, and other instances where, like, that French teacher who was discussing something and then got beheaded. So
mm.
there is a legitimate fear of some people to speak out against Islam, and I can understand that to some degree, but I still think we should be speaking up and calling out the atrocities and the stupidity where we see it. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So that fear is the factor. Hope
yeah.
Hari
And
Krishnan
like
got an answer.
and it's like with all religions, like you have fundamentalist Christians, you have fundamentalist Jews, you have fundamentalist Hindus, you have fundamentalist Muslims. The vast majority of any religion are not the fundamentalists. The fundamentalists are always a very tiny percentage of the whole. They just get
Mm,
all the headlines because they make all the noise. Um, like I've known evangelical Christians, and I've had very close friends. I've dated a Muslim, and I've had Muslim friends my whole life. I have Jewish friends now. Um, so these, like I said, like the moderates of any religion, you know, they're just living their life. Their religion is they're on the Saturdays, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever their holy days and their tradition. Um, but they're to some extent, agree with there's people like Sam Harris, and I think Christopher Hitchens made the same point. Where are all the moderate Muslims? Why are they not speaking up? And I think that again comes back to this fear that they're afraid. Moderate Muslims are afraid to speak up against their more extremist brethren for fear of being killed. So
and to make these moderates to speak out against the Islam is the one major reason why we come up with this ex-Muslim idea. So when we stand there as large pillars uh, who represent the opposition or the opposing view against Islam, we are giving them a hope, or we are giving them a clue that this could be done. So, and this is working. That's what I'm saying. Like when you pose like that, an opposition to Islam with clear cut points, your arguments, and other things, it's giving the moderates a little more chance to say it openly, to come out openly, or even
Yeah.
to stay silent, or to just to be the end points of the Islamic extremism in their circles, like whether it could be the family, could be their friend circles, or even they could happen to be in some of the extremist groups, peer groups, where they used to discuss some of the dangerous ideas, and they they even plan something vile, and that can be stopped at their at the source. So that's the benefit of this ex-Muslim
Yeah.
organization. Yeah,
Well, a good education, good
yeah,
unbiased
desensitize as we call.
education,
Yeah.
um, contemporary cultural studies, contemporary religious, comparative religious studies.
Mm.
This goes a long way to helping people. Even just like interfaith dialogues, like if you're gonna be a theist, then you're gonna have, get together with some of these other groups, and you can see that, hey, they're just like me. So, but yeah, it's
That's
I
right.
think I think if we can calm down the Israel Gaza thing, I think that'll
Yeah.
go away to diffusing a lot of the anger in the Muslim community that is, it's misplaced, but I can understand why those people are angry. But if we can resolve this, I think that'll go a long way in the Muslim communities where some of this extremism is cropping up outside, like around the world, outside of the Middle East. I think that'll go a long way to de-escalating because your kindling is being taken away.
But this issue has given more chance to express their violent idea, their position on this, and even to be a part of this violence. So this has increased the number of extremists, and even we are seeing a rise in the knife attacks and the stabbings, which we always talk about. Even now, I'm not sure whether there are any stabbing
And
attack at the moment when
and
we
you
are
have
speaking on
and you
this.
seem to have these Western governments that are too afraid of their own shadow and offending these irate Muslims, and being accused of Islamophobia, that they let them get away with this behavior that otherwise they would have cracked down on. And I think that is atrocious. I think these governments should be ashamed that they're not
Mm.
cracking down because they're acting out of fear. It's like, I'm sorry,
Mm.
that's not a good excuse. Like, these people are acting like terrorists. You should be treating them like that. So.
Anyway, so
You're
anyway,
just you're just
this.
enabling them to think they can get away with it. So yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
I was just saying, like, these governments, like the British government, that are allowing these Muslim extremists to get away with it. You're just enabling more of the same bad behavior. So
Enabling how they are enabling, it's just by staying silent. You just voice against them. You need not do anything special. It's already there. The rule is in the place. But instead of using that, you are resorting to a two-tier policing, a two-tier justice system, which is enabling them. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
So you need not do anything special, or you need not find anything new in this to fight this. Just use what is there right now. Protect free speech. Ensure uniform, strict punishments. Use of justice without any um, imbalance in that. It shouldn't be selective. That's what you have to do. But
yeah,
at the expense of damaging, or at the fear of damaging the coexistence or multiculturalism or many other things like that. So they are just trying to appease this community.
yeah.
And
Well,
at
they
the
need
end of
better.
the day, you are suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So
Shall
let's
we
call
wrap
it a
it up for
day.
this week? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. I hope it was an interesting chat. It was fun for me. I hope it was fun for you. Thanks for the questions.
Right.
And let's see everybody again next week. So take care, everybody.
Sure.
Have a great week.